Am I on? Can you guys hear me and see me? 10 fingers. Okay, we're good. Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, Apple is reporting imminently. You're going to hear our full analysis in real time here. And that's about it. And then we're going to have a Q&A with Apple. I am Mark Melnick, and this is the Newsbeat Show. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Newsbeat Show. We're going to analyze Apple today. We're going to give real-time thoughts and analysis on what they are reporting, as well do as well as doing a live Q&A here in the Newsbeat live room, which we're going to share with you. But first, I would like to say thank you to people that maybe you and I have never met in our entire lives. Maybe they're aliens from another planet. Maybe there is proof that there is life out there within the cosmos. But kindly hit the pause button, memorize this entire thing when you are done reading it, and you can memorize it backwards and forwards and repeat it blindfolded with loud rock music playing behind you. Only then do I want you to hit the play button again. Thank you very much for reading that. So we're going to go. The discussion here is Apple. And, why is it such a big deal? Why is Apple such a big deal? Besides for being the first known human stock to be worth $1 trillion and being the largest publicly traded company on the planet. Why is Apple important? Because Apple is going to pretty much, there's a lot of people and analysts out there who really believe that Apple is going to end up dictating the future of where the market is. And I'm going to show you a real-time 5-minute chart. And again, it's just going to be updating real time here so we could see Apple, how it's moving in real time, and it moves left and right because that's what the charts do as they update. But the importance of this is people talk so much about a bear market and a bull market, and are we in a bull market and are we in a bear market? Well, the truth is, really depends on your perspective. The truth is, to me, the bear market is an opinion. Now, we do have people who like to really sum it up into no, it's not an opinion. It's two consecutive quarters of negative growth, or it's a 20% pullback in the market. And there's probably 150 other claimed definitions of what a bear market looks like. The truth is, I'm not really caught up in that hype, but I will say the rest of the year is going to be very dependent, very largely dependent on what Apple reports today. As I said before, Tim Cook, best CEO on Wall Street, best CEO. Apple's going to be reporting here in 5 minutes. Why don't we just take a really quick, hot second here? Why don't we take a really quick, hot second here and talk about what Apple did last time they actually reported? What was it in July, right? Right over here on, I think it was July 31st. Was it July 31st, the last one? Let's go ahead and we're just going to talk about what they said last time. What are some of the things that we can expect? So they did report on July 31st, $2.34 versus the $2.18 expected. That's very good because it shows that all the professional analysts out there actually were off on what Apple could have reported, and they actually exceeded their expectations. It's like me saying, I'm going to do your laundry for you, and then you're like, okay, thanks, throw it in the washing machine and dryer, but then you see it professionally folded and all put in your drawers with a little mint and chocolate on your pillow. You're like, wow, Mark went above and beyond. That's pretty much what Apple did to the analysts last time. $2.34 earnings per share beat the 2.18 expected. So they beat on earnings per share revenue 53.3 billion, topped the 52.34 billion expected, and they raised their Q4 revenue, which is what they're reporting today. This is what they predicted back in the last day of July on July 31st. 60 to 62 billion dollars. The consensus from the analysts were 59.5 billion dollars. So that is a very, very bullish talk on the market. There was a little bit of tariff talk. So they said this was very interesting. They said tariff ends up being a tax on the consumer. That's their way of saying When I read that line, and this is exactly quote for quote, I'm not paraphrasing, when they say tariffs end up being a tax on the consumer, what they're basically saying is, look, guys, people are going to buy our products whether you like it or not. People are going to buy Apple products whether you like it or not. If we have to charge another $50 for our iPhone, we're still going to sell most likely the same number of iPhones. If we charge $100 for an iPhone, we're probably going to sell the same number of iPhones. So they approached it from a very cocky perspective, and Apple does have the right to be cocky here because obviously Apple is the largest company in the world. Nobody sells more phones than them. We are waiting to see what they're going to report. You're going to get very knee-jerk reactions. Please feel free to not trade. If trading after hours is not your strategy, I would probably say now is not a good time to start just because you have a live analysis for me. I'm here to just try to bring you value. So we should get Apple reporting here shortly. And you guys in the room also, if you see anything on Apple, just post it immediately in the room and we're going to go ahead. So brace yourself. We got about a minute and a half here. Apple's acting all wackadoodle right here prior to the actual report. It's moving up just a little here, about 80 cents after hours, but we both know that that doesn't mean not anything. They could shoot it up, rip it down, whatever they need to do. So we're the market is bracing on Apple right here. 1 minute. As Barbara is saying in the room, 1 minute left to the potential stock market Armageddon. It is a potential because the importance of this earnings report is very important to the year end of the market here. So Apple's glued to around $223 right now. It's glued to the 223 level. And a lot of times you'll get a knee-jerk reaction here where they rip it down, pop it up, rip it down. I mean, it is earnings, so brace yourself. Expectations are very high. I'm going to analyze it in real time for you guys. I'm going to tell you my completely unfettered, unbiased opinions on it. We'll see what happens here. Brace yourself. Beat on earnings per share. Post, post, post. Beat on earnings per share. Not a surprise there. You see right now Apple is dropping precipitously at the moment. 20% beat in revenue. iPhone is below estimates. 46.9 million iPhones versus the 47 million expected. Now, obviously, that is bearish here. However, Apple did say that they had greater China revenue. 62.9 billion beat the 61.44 billion in revenues. Apple sees first quarter revenue 89 to 93 billion. That is a little bit, the median of that range is a little bit below the 92.74 billion expected. iPhone shipments 46.89 million versus 47 million. The iPhone shipments were lower than expected. 9.7 million iPads, 5.3 million Macs last quarter. iPhone selling price was $793, however, and the expected sale price was $750. So they were selling the average iPhone for a lot more than Wall Street expected here. And you could see right now, if you want to stop and you want to say, why is Apple, plunging right now? Let's give a little technical analysis on real time. Again, I may call a bottoming out level here on Apple. Doesn't mean I think you should buy it. Please feel free to not trade. $204.89. Major descending support on Apple. $204.89 is major descending support on Apple. It just bumped into an S3 support line here at $213, and it just got stuck here a little. It's having a little bit of issues here, going much further down as quick as it did initially. Um, let's see. So what happens in Apple here? They're actually selling the iPhone for more than expected. They're actually selling the iPhone for more than expected, even though they're selling less phones. To me, I'm not interpreting that as bearish in Apple, simply because on Apple, it's just to me a simple way of looking at it and saying, okay. How focused were they on the new iPhone? How focused were they on the new features? When you saw them in Brooklyn recently, they were talking more about the iPad and trying to increase their iPad sales. So, looking overall, you are dealing with the most, powerful company on the planet. I don't I don't view all these things as negative. The biggest negative I see right now is indeed the first quarter revenue. The first quarter revenue, 89 to 93 billion versus the 92.74 expected, gives them a lot of room to miss next quarter's revenue targets. And for me, that is the big, you know, pull down in Apple. Please keep in mind the cash pile Apple is sitting on now is $237.1 billion they just reported. That is a massive, massive cash pile, down 2.7% from the last quarter. And what it just shows you that Apple will have the ability overall to easily weather particular things that come in. So what can this mean for the market right now? This could mean, if Apple, depending on where it opens, and the truth is, believe me, even with Apple down this much right now, it's really hard to say exactly where it'll open, if it'll open higher than here or lower from here. It's obviously moving, um, you know, with reckless abandon, if you will. At the moment, it jumps up and down dollars in, seconds at times. But, looking overall here at Apple, it's just one of those things right now where there's going to be three major market moving events, as I was saying this morning, for the entire year. One of them is going to be what you see right now. The other one is going to be the midterm elections. And the third one is going to be the US-China trade war. I feel those are the only three known major market movers, short of something wildly out of left field coming into the market. So this is definitely one event right now that can affect potentially, how we close at the end of the year. Just going back to, I want to show you guys one of the predictions that were actually made at the beginning of the year. And it's actually, it goes back to my 9-year market theory. And the 9-year market theory basically shows you, just to pull away from Apple here from a second, and I'm just going to show you a yearly here of the triple Qs, that we've never in history of the Qs ever had more than 9 straight green years in a row. 9 years where we closed higher than where we opened at the beginning of the year. The last time, of course, was 1991 all the way to 1999, and we put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And on the 10th year, we shot up and then pulled back massively. I mean, the Qs at the time went from $120.50 down to $54 on that same year. Absolutely plunged. So just going back to um, my one of my major predictions here, I just wanted to share that with you. And again, it's just a random prediction. Again, nothing I say should be misconstrued as a stock pick or trading advice. But I did predict that we were going to close red for the year. And it was basically an unproven 9-year market theory because on the 9-year market theory, where was that? 9-year market theory, right over here. Right over here, I was predicting that the spiders, the major prediction number one, this was given at the beginning of the year. Let me just move it over. I'm just trying to avoid my face covering it. So basically said the Qs were going to move higher for the first few months of 2018. And basically, I said we're going to have a major downturn in the market, and it's going to potentially coincide with actions or policies with Iran, China, or North Korea. In this case, it's obviously the US-China trade war, I think, is the biggest thing. And I did predict that the markets will close red for the year and put an initial target on the triple Qs of $134.94. Is my webcam still working? Can you guys still hear me? Am I still good? Do I need to fix my webcam? My webcam. All right, let me just fix the webcam. There's just so much crazy Apple hecticness that my webcam blew out there for a moment. Okay, there we go. So back to my 9-year market theory. The Qs would have to close below 156.56, $156.56 to come into fruition here. Just looking back at Apple at the moment, we hit a low of 210.55, and it's just currently down 5% after hours right now. So what I'm going to do is, um, do does anybody have any questions on Apple? And again, if you want to post them on the video, I'll probably be interacting with you later. But for first, members of the Newsbeat Live community, um, do you guys have any questions here on Apple that I can answer for you? Mhm. Overall, I don't see this as a huge problem for Apple. I don't think the iPhone shipments were a big deal. And the biggest thing again is the first quarter revenue drop. So if Apple were to miss on revenues, that would obviously be big. To me, that is what is, hurting Apple at the moment. There was actually, what did they say that was positive out of China? One second, let me just pull that up. Okay. So Tim Cook basically is highlighting right now a record-breaking quarter, saying he's thrilled to report another record-breaking quarter that caps a tremendous fiscal 2018. They shipped their 2 billionth iOS device, 10th anniversary of the App Store, and achieved the strongest revenue and earnings in Apple's history. So let's just be clear, it was the strongest earnings and revenue in Apple's history. Over the past 2 months, we've delivered huge advancements for our customers through new versions of the iPhone, Apple Watch, iPad, and Mac, as well as our 4 operating systems. And we enter the holiday season with our strongest lineup of products of services ever. That came out of CFO Luca Maestri. We concluded a record year with our best September quarter ever, growing double digits in every geographic segment. We set September quarter revenue records for iPhone and wearables and all-time quarterly records for services and Macs. We generated $19.5 billion in operating cash flow and returned over $23 billion to shareholders in dividends. So Apple returned $23 billion in dividends to their shareholders and share repurchases in the September quarter, bringing total capital returned this year. So the total capital returned to investors is that was just for the quarter. This year was $90 billion. So you have a company that returned $90 billion to their investors. Obviously, that's huge. They did say their services revenues were up 27% excluding a favorable adjustment. So they could have painted like the picture a lot better and they were more modest with it, saying that services revenue reached an all-time high of $10 billion. To me, that's huge because I think services revenue, I think I'll pull up the 1-minute chart right here. I think services revenue is a very big deal because you don't really need to sell a physical product to give somebody services revenue. If you look at Google's revenue, it's pretty much all services revenue, short of their operating systems and whatnot. For what you use, or for what most people use Google for, is Google.com. Netflix is another company that doesn't bank on a physical product; they bank on services. Same with Facebook. Same with really Amazon. I mean, Alexa is not their major, it's not where they make the majority of their money. Apple, however, the majority of Apple's money is indeed made selling you a physical product. So Apple, out of Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, the FANG names as they're so endearingly called, the number one thing for the FANG names here are services revenues with the exception of Apple. So, um, their services revenues are growing. That means they're going to be competing direct head on with Amazon. They're going to be, a direct competitor to Amazon. And people don't really think of Apple and Amazon as competitors towards each other. But when you see their services revenue, exploding, there's no reason why Apple can't tap into some of the things that Amazon was doing. So right now we have Apple with little $4.50 bounce off the lows. It's really just down $4 right now. So again, we're gonna have to see what the analysts say. Um, Again, to me, the most disappointing thing, I'm going to give Apple a thumbs up across the board. To me, the fact that they sold less iPad units, for example, 9.7 million versus 10.33, I'm not really interpreting that bearishly because, I mean, to me, they're already releasing a new iPad. They're already releasing something sexy. And the truth is, I own what was the biggest iPad. I think they unveiled a bigger iPad. So the truth was, there was never a reason for me to go out and buy a new iPad. There was never a reason for me. Now everybody wants Apple's bigger and better and best product. It's one of those things. You see, Apple to me is not really a company where it's like an old pair of jeans. And you have that old pair of jeans from Gap or Banana Republic or Levi's jeans, those 20-year-old Levi's jeans, which if you could still fit in them is definitely a huge thumbs up. And you have it in your closet and it lasts forever and you are able to wear it and hold it and, utilize it in that aspect. That that's great if that was you, was able to do that. Just please keep in mind throughout all this mumbo jumbo here, the triple Qs are still up $1.23 on the day. So again, Apple actually at the moment did not really collapse the market. All right. Apple would have had to, Apple down $4 on the day, even if it's trading, $8 off the closing price, isn't that big of a deal yet. Now, that's not to say Apple doesn't go lower. That's not to say it doesn't bounce higher. I just wanted to share a little bit more of that with you. So, any questions right here on Apple? Only 2 million volume for the first 5 minutes. hmm I mean, yeah, you look at the long term, if you look at the long-term trend in Apple, it's obviously extremely bullish. Like I could even pull up, talking about the long-term trend in Apple, pull down to let's say 214, let's even say 210 would be right over here. That would be $210 on Apple, where this line is. So long term, not a big deal. I will, however, say as a company who is the most valuable company in the world and on top, this is fair treatment for Apple right now because of their Q1 revenue projections. That is the worst number you'll see. Now, are there things that Apple could do to potentially fix that number? Yes. I mean, they're unveiling a new iPad. The truth is, everybody with the older iPads who want to buy the newest Apple iPad, they're going to have a flood in of business into that new product. Every single one of Apple's products do sell. So they could potentially surprise on that on a more optimistic view. However, the company projecting modest revenues, and they didn't even say they were going to miss, it's just more of the median range was ready to miss. They said 89 to 93 billion versus the 92.74 billion expected. So they could still do 93. They might even beat it and do 94 or 95. So they still have an opportunity to beat. But if you want to know my personal thoughts here of why it's falling down here, that would be the reason. And again, the next biggest market moving event besides, now that this one, the cat's out of the bag or the apple is fell off the tree, however you want to classify it. However you want to classify it, Apple is just, looking at Apple here, it's fair. I mean, this is fair treatment for Apple. Yes, Apple has a lot more positives than negatives, but when you're the most valuable company in the world, you're not allowed to really say anything bad. And it's the same feeling I basically gave you guys on Amazon when I said Amazon earnings sucked. I said it for 2 quarters in a row, and they, pulled down both quarters. Do these Apple earnings suck? No, the earnings don't suck, but the projections suck on Apple. Not that they're so bad, but when you're on top, you're not allowed to have any wiggle room with anything negative whatsoever. It's hard to really say, for next Friday if the calls, if this thing comes back. I think it's going to be more based on the market for the most part. Okay. All right. So the new Apple is 12.9 inches still without the home button. It has the same size screen, but smaller footprint and thinner. Gotcha. Yeah, everybody who has an iPhone will eventually upgrade to the new iPhone. But yeah, it's definitely very interesting right here with this pullback in Apple. We are starting a new month. We had some really just beautiful calls today, like between our two favorite names in the room was Teva for a long today, and you could just see Teva right here on the 5 minute. The stock, absolutely exploded today, and we're watching Fitbit as well, and that stock exploded out as well. So. I do think intraday trading is going to get good. I do want to remind you of one thing though. When we were, hitting very large chatter plays, making, 5, 6 figure days here, it actually happened, just bringing you back to the triple Qs. It actually happened after February. Whoops, that's a weekly. Let me just show you a daily here of the triple Qs. Okay. All right. So right over here, you could see if you remember when the market was plummeting in February, when, within a week and a half, we went from like 170 down to 150. We dropped 20 points only to rally all the way back up, only to yank back down, only to rally back all the way, back up through the all-time highs. I will tell you though, while I am disappointed with their revenue outlook, while I am disappointed on Apple's revenue outlook, I've seen stranger things, and I'm not referring to the Netflix show, where the market has just managed to come back and rally. However, there is still, as I told you guys in the room, this is the second biggest market moving news event that would be here for the end of the year. The number one market moving news event will indeed be the United States midterm elections. And, depending on how the markets act from there, we might rebound, we might fall further. And I think that's going to be very interesting to see, especially given the fact that those midterm elections are going to end in a week. I'm hoping to see more analysts come out now. I think a lot of them were hiding under the table, especially when we were, bashing Netflix and bashing Amazon earnings and the stocks plummeted. I think a lot of them are going to come out now and be a little more reasonable because, the firms that are sitting here long Apple, which are the majority of firms are not shorting Apple here. And remember, they still have the huge share repurchase program in place as well. The majority of these firms I highly doubt are going to want to sell their Apple positions. It's just generally not something these firms do. They would rather go after names that look a lot weaker than Apple if they're looking to short something. So again, these analysts are going to come out from hiding under the table. I think we're going to get a really nice news flow week coming ahead here. I think it's going to look very interesting. And this Apple, in terms of the analysts tomorrow, you're going to get a lot of analysts reiterating prices, just so you know. So I'm predicting already for you what the analysts are going to say tomorrow when they read this Apple report. What they should say is they should drop the price target to around 200 to 190 if they're approaching it with an unbiased eye and say they're worried about their Q1 revenues. If the analysts were being open and honest with you, that's what they're going to say. I highly doubt the analysts are going to be open and honest with you. So what you're going to end up seeing is a ton of reiterations, a ton of, look for the word tomorrow again, reiterate and keep. Like we're keeping a $220 target on Apple. We're reiterating a $225 target on Apple. Or we're dropping the target on Apple from 235 to 230 on Apple, which is not really a real downgrade. So I do expect the analysts to come out in force, in collective, unified force, come out and defend this Apple here. But again, it's going to bring a lot more action to the market. I'm very excited about what the market has to offer here, and I know the trading is going to really start to pick up well, just like it did in the intraday for us here in the Newsbeat live room. Well, that is all for Apple for now. I'm pretty sure I'll be analyzing it tonight as well. I want to thank you guys for attending this talk on a little known $1 trillion company. And we're going to be looking forward to trading it tomorrow. And we're going to have very good calls for intraday trading in it tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to trading it. I humbly believe we're going to be successful in it. And again, I love this market action and this whole down move in the market. Just remember, is going to bring a lot of good intraday opportunity. I hope you guys enjoyed the Newsbeat show. I hope you guys enjoyed our Apple analysis. Happy trading, make money. I'll see you guys tonight on the Newsbeat show and tomorrow morning on the Newsbeat live trading broadcast. Have a wonderful evening.